August 2, 2008, a quiet atoll in the Pacific Ocean. Everything is at stake. The third attempt, the third Falcon 1 rocket, built with the company's last money, lifts off the ground. In the Mission Control Center, tense silence. Dozens of engineers who gave years of their lives to this dream watch the screens without breathing. The first stage separates, successfully. Cautious applause breaks out in the room. Hope, but within seconds, it turns to ashes. The rocket begins to shake, tumble, and explodes, becoming an ocean of fire above the ocean of water. The third launch, the third failure. In the dead silence of mission control, one man tries to find the words to address his team. This is Elon Musk, and he has just lost everything. His dream of space, his company, his reputation, all burned up there in the sky. But to understand how deep this abyss was, we need to go back to the very beginning, to the idea that everyone called madness.
Early 2000s, Silicon Valley is celebrating. A young Elon Musk has just sold his stake in PayPal and become a multi-millionaire. He is not yet 30. He could have bought an island, a yacht, retired. But his gaze was not fixed on Earth. It was fixed on the stars. A simple yet terrifying thought troubled him. Humanity is a single-planet species. Any cataclysm, asteroid, or virus could wipe us from the face of the universe. We needed a backup plan. And that plan was Mars. But when he turned to the giants of the aerospace industry to buy a rocket, they simply laughed at him. They gave him a price tag that made one thing clear. Kid, this isn't your sandbox. And so, on the plane ride home, he made a decision that would change the world. A decision experts called financial suicide. If he couldn't buy a rocket, he would build one himself.
In 2002, SpaceX was born not in NASA's shiny laboratories, but in an old warehouse in California. The first employees were not gray-haired industry veterans, but young, bold engineers who Musk personally selected for the spark in their eyes. They worked 100 hours a week, slept under their desks. Their fuel was pizza, coffee, and an almost religious belief in their leader's vision. Musk wasn't just a CEO, he was the chief engineer. He dove into every bolt, every line of code, pushing his team to constantly step over the word impossible. Meanwhile, the entire aerospace industry looked at them like a hobby club. Internet upstart, amateur. He doesn't understand rocket science, they whispered behind their backs. No one believed that a handful of garage engineers could achieve what nations spent decades and billions on. But Musk ignored the noise. He knew the only way to prove them wrong was to launch a rocket. And in 2006, after 4 years of hellish work, the first Falcon 1 stood on the launch pad. March 24, 2006, the first attempt. The whole world is watching. Elon stands with his team, fingers crossed. Liftoff. The rocket leaves the ground, and after 25 seconds, the engine catches fire. A fuel leak. Falcon 1 falls back onto the launch pad and explodes. Total failure. Musk would later say, "It felt like my heart had been ripped out and eaten." But in front of his devastated team, he said, "We'll be fine. This is only the beginning." They spent a year rebuilding everything from scratch. A year of sleepless nights, fixing mistakes. A year lived on the edge. March 21, 2007, the second attempt. The rocket flies longer, 5 minutes. It seems like this is it, but suddenly it starts to sway, loses control, and again, failure. The wreckage falls into the ocean. 2 launches, 2 fireballs, millions of dollars turned into smoke. Investors began to panic. The press openly called SpaceX Musk's expensive hobby. And the money was almost gone.
2008 was the year of a perfect storm. While SpaceX was burning money and exploding in the sky, another of his companies, Tesla, was dying on the ground. Manufacturing hell, quality problems, and a financial crisis that shattered the global economy. Musk was trapped. His 2 companies, his 2 children, were dying at the same time, and he had to choose which one to save. He was torn between them, pouring in his last personal savings. Friends begged him to let at least one go. "You've gone mad," they told him. "You're going to lose everything." He was on the verge of personal bankruptcy. He lived on borrowed money. The pressure was so overwhelming that, in his own words, he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming from nightmares. And it was precisely at this moment, at the depth of his despair, that the SpaceX team was ready for the 3rd launch, the very one with which we began our story. Now it was not just a 3rd attempt, it was the last bullet in the chamber.
After the 3rd failure, the team was crushed. Many were ready to quit. It seemed like the end. But Elon Musk gathered all the remaining employees. There was no despair in his voice, only icy determination. He told them, "I will never give up, and I mean never." They had parts and components left for exactly one last rocket. There was no more money. This wasn't just another launch. This was the shot that would decide the fate of the company, the dream, and hundreds of people. If this attempt failed, SpaceX would cease to exist, period. September 28, 2008, just 7 weeks after the catastrophe. Falcon 1 is back on the launch pad. In mission control, not silence, but a ringing, almost painful tension. Many engineers cried even before liftoff, knowing this was their last shared prayer. Liftoff. The rocket leaves the ground. Seconds drag on like hours. Everyone stares at the telemetry, waiting for the anomaly that would kill their dream. 1 minute of flight. 2. 2.5. The moment when the second launch had failed, passed. 3 minutes. First stage separation. The moment when the 3rd launch had failed, passed. And then 7 minutes later, a signal arrives from orbit. The 2nd stage has reached the designated altitude. Falcon 1, the first privately developed liquid-fueled rocket, had reached Earth's orbit. In mission control, a storm of emotions erupted. People shouted, hugged, and cried with joy. Years of pain, doubt, and sacrifice were rewarded in an instant. They did it. They made history. Elon Musk stepped out to the team. He couldn't hold back his tears. This was not just a successful launch. This was salvation. This success came at the very last moment. Literally days after reaching orbit, he received a call from NASA. Seeing that the technology worked, they signed a $1.6 billion contract with SpaceX to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. The company was saved. The dream was alive. The money from the NASA contract not only kept SpaceX afloat, but also saved Tesla, which was also on the brink of collapse. One single successful launch pulled 2 companies from the abyss. 2 companies that today are changing our world. The story of the 4th launch of SpaceX is not just a story about rockets. It is a story about human will. Lesson 1. Persistence on the edge of madness. Musk could have surrendered after the first failure. He could have surrendered after the second, and he certainly should have surrendered after the third, when everyone around called him an idiot. But he continued moving forward because his faith in the goal was stronger than the fear of failure. Lesson 2. Accept failure as a part of the process. At SpaceX, failure was not the end of the world. It was a source of data. Every explosion, every mistake was carefully analyzed, making the next attempt smarter. They were not afraid to lose. They were afraid not to learn. And the main lesson: when you put everything at stake for an idea in which you believe with all your heart, the universe can reward you at the very last moment. The path to the stars goes through fire, and only the one who is ready to burn completely and be reborn from the ashes can reach them.